Right, I think we can start.
We are going on Facebook, just maybe 30 seconds.
It's live now on Facebook.
Okay, so we can start now.
We can start, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Right. A very, very good evening to everybody. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Dr. Raj Govender, Rajendran Govender, former public servant with the Department of Arts and Culture, specializing in social cohesion and nation building. And basically, right now I'm retired and I have a consultancy, which is Mzansi Empowerment Enterprise, where I'm basically focusing on diversity management, etc. I've been recently appointed as a social cohesion advocate by the National Minister of Arts and Culture, and tomorrow we are being inducted as advocates. And I'm also on the advisory board of the Turquoise Harmony Institute. So my main focus and my most important work that I do is around social cohesion and nation building. And I also host a weekly program on Capital Radio, which is called Ubuntu Radio with Dr. G, where the content of my program on Wednesdays is based on social cohesion and nation building. So a very, very warm welcome to everybody that are streaming at the moment on Facebook, on YouTube, as well as on the Zoom social platforms. And we'd like to welcome you all first and foremost. And then more especially, we'd like to welcome our two panelists. We have very, very prominent and distinguished panelists here today, which I will introduce later. But they are Professor Mkhize and Dr. Ismail Vadi, right? So they are our panelists. And then we also have youth participants who will be responding to the panelists' discussion. The youth participants are Dr. Kumaran Govender, Mishla Nicholas Biksa, Umaira Patel, and Dr. Dimande Nduduzo Dimande. So those are our panelists. So once again, welcome to everybody. I am convinced it's going to be a very, very interesting discussion. The discussion that we are presently undertaking tonight is the role of Hizmet-affiliated institutions on youth empowerment in South Africa. Now, as an introduction to the topic, right, I would like to give you a very, very brief background about the Hizmet movement. The Hizmet movement is a worldwide civic initiative rooted in the spiritual and humanistic tradition of Islam and inspired by the ideas and activism of Mr. Fethullah Gulen, who is based in the United States of America. This organization is a faith-inspired, non-political, cultural, and educational movement whose basic principles stem from universal values such as love of the creation, sympathy for the fellow human, compassion, and altruism. The movement is certainly not a governmental or state-sponsored organization. All volunteers are beneficiaries and provide inspiration to the organization. The institutions focus on the betterment of the individual towards a positive change in society. So we are very, very happy that the role of this particular movement in developing leaders and empowering the youth in South Africa, right? And that is very, very important. So based on that, the Hizmet movement, right, there are a number of institutions that fall under the ambit of the Hizmet movement in South Africa. Firstly, we have the Turquoise Harmony Institute, which was established in 2006 in order to foster relations among different faith and cultural traditions to contribute to the well-being of humanity, right? They are engaged in many, many activities, such as conferences, seminars, iftar dinners, intercultural trips, dialogue, awards. But the whole purpose of the Turquoise Harmony Institute is to foster social cohesion and nation building. Another very important organization that is linked to the Hizmet movement is the Time to Care organization, which is an NGO from the Gift of Hope Trust that also intends to inspire a culture of unconditional care for the other by giving to those less fortunate, right? And they focus on previously disadvantaged children, establishing and supporting youth clubs, in partnering schools to develop personal and interpersonal skills. And the third structure that's linked to the Hizmet movement is the Horizon Educational Trust, which was formed in 1998. And since its establishment, they played a significant and extensive role in the educational, cultural, and social fields in South Africa. One of the main objectives of the Horizon Educational Trust is to provide pre-primary, primary, and high school facilities in different parts of South Africa. And the Horizon Trust has in South Africa 5 schools in 3 different provinces, and these schools is a home for all, with sound values, quality education, world-class facilities, and caring environment is the cornerstone of the learning experience of the Horizon Trust. So basically, viewers and listeners from all over the world, this Hizmet movement have developed so many leaders in this country. They are all very, very well placed in different parts of the world. We will be listening to 4 of them later. But right now, according to our program, I would like to introduce our 2 panelists, very distinguished panelists, very, very well recognized for their work in South Africa. Firstly, we have the Honorable Professor H. Mkhize, and then we have Dr. Ismail Vadi. So I would like to first introduce our first panelist for today, and that is the Honorable Professor Hlengiwe Buhle Mkhize, who is currently the Deputy Minister of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities. The Deputy Minister, Hlengiwe Buhle Mkhize, was appointed as Deputy Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities on 30th May 2019. Professor Mkhize brings a wealth of knowledge to the department, having served as Minister of Higher Education and Training, Minister of Home Affairs, Deputy Minister of Telecommunications and Postal Services, Deputy Minister of Higher Education and Training, as well as Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Minister or Deputy Minister of Correctional Services. So, Dr. or Professor Hlengiwe Buhle Mkhize, the discussion is open to you. Now, firstly, what I would like to find out from you, Professor, right? 1 minute. Firstly, in your varied activities in the different roles, you are best placed to know how the youth are developed in South Africa. So what are some of the challenges, education and skills development, social cohesion and solidarity, etc., in youth empowerment in South Africa? And how do the Hizmet institutions work towards sustaining these challenges? Over to you, Professor. Professor Mkhize?
All right.
Right.
Is it okay now?
Yes, I can hear you, right, but I can't see you.
Thank you very much.
Right, we can see. Right, we can see you. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Govender. I think the elaborate description of the concept that is going to guide the discussion has been very helpful. I would just like to acknowledge also Dr. Vadi, who will throw more light onto the topic, and also to acknowledge all those who have tuned in this discussion, our young people in particular, who will be participating, I understand they are from the Time to Care Youth Club. Of course, I'm grateful that I had an opportunity to participate in this high-level discussion. I just want to reflect a bit on what we have gone through, and of course, bringing it to be relevant to this. We've just been having numerous discussions during this Youth Month under the theme of youth power, growing South Africa together in the period of COVID-19. But what is relevant for me here in terms of the values that we are talking about this evening is that we started off the first week in June by commemorating the 95 years of life of Mr. Andrew Mlangeni. What was important was not so much his political career of having been a member of parliament, but it was about his determination, his bravery, his commitment, and his adherence to certain values that helped to take us forward to a point where we ushered a democratic process in a particular manner. What was important for this intergenerational dialogue is that he's one of the leaders who made sure that we manage our transition by promoting national unity, by promoting social cohesion. Some of you might remember the jokes people used to say our first president is about kissing babies because he didn't want anything that will divide the people further. But he promoted all those values and principles that were not only talking to democratic principles, but also the culture of human rights. And of course, we've come a long way. We've also linked that with the young people of 1976, that their success during the most difficult time is that they showed solidarity and unity as a strength. They stood together for a common cause. And so all empowerment engagements with youth propel them to transform systems and bring about change, to ensure that whatever gains have been made are not lost. I want to touch on another aspect which we have been looking at a lot during the month of June, is the youth policy Vision 2030, which envisages an integrated, holistic, and sustainable youth development, conscious of the diversities and developmental capabilities in the midst of historical imbalances and current challenges in building capabilities of young people and their organization. Program Director, with regard to your question of education and skills, I think it's important to acknowledge that in most struggles of young people to define themselves, to find a niche in society, education tends to be a trigger, a uniting factor. In our case, the big question is how much has been put in education, the money that has gone to skills development, the CETA, and of course universities, where our young people have been given free education those who qualify, but there has been a contradiction in terms of impact, in the sense that we have too many unemployed graduates. We have too many who are not forging ahead as entrepreneurs. We have too many young people who are despondent, who are now neither in education nor in training. So the question this evening is, what more should be done to make sure that we cross this bridge? And of course, we have unique challenges which have been articulated even in the National Development Plan, Vision 2030, that young South Africans, especially in rural areas, tend to be more vulnerable. I just want to make reference to Reginald Munyai, writing on the significance attached to education and youth development in rural South Africa, puts it clearly that given the fact that the youth make up the largest proportion of the population in the rural areas, it's important to understand the social and economic dynamics that affect their ability to develop as individuals and members of society.
Excellent.
Basically, access is a big problem. Access to skills, especially vocational skills, they hardly get opportunities to enter in areas which offer critical skills like engineering, computer science, technology, and many others. So the question is, what more should we be doing to ensure that we create a society which is inclusive in all respects? Maybe
so,
before I come to that,
Honorable Minister, can I ask you at this stage now? So you believe that organizations like the Hizmet institution have a very, very vital role to play in social transformation?
Yeah, you know, it's important to start with the values. And if you look at the Hizmet movement, it starts with the basics of life. It talks to cultural aspects. It talks to the principles and the values. But for me, what is even more important is the commitment in bridging the gaps amongst members of society. Remember, you know, if you were to unlock opportunities for youth empowerment, you have to create an environment where there are no barriers.
Correct.
In terms of faith or race or whatever barrier that normally society tends to put as a tag. So it's an important movement in shaping, especially youth, in a context like ours, which is diverse and has had too many barriers over decades. Some being created by political leaders and others just emerging as people deal with specific challenges.
Excellent. Now, at this stage, we'd like to our next panelist, but before we do that, I would like to encourage our viewers and listeners that are presently tuned into this live stream. If you have any questions and answers, make note of it, and towards the end of this panel discussion, we will accommodate questions and answers or items of clarity. But at this stage, we'd like to thank Professor Hlengiwe for a wonderful presentation, but we will hear more from her later. But right now, I would like to welcome our next panelist, who we have today is Dr. Ismail Vadi. All right, a former educator from Lenasia, a community activist during the new democratic dispensation in 1994. Dr. Ismail Vadi was elected by the ruling party to serve in various capacities, mainly in the position of being an MEC in a number of different portfolios. He currently serves as a trustee of the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation and continues to serve the diverse communities of South Africa. So, welcome, Dr. Ismail Vadi. And I would like to ask you, what do you think, Dr. Vadi, are some of the challenges in education, skills development, social cohesion and solidarity amongst the youth, and how are the challenges impacting on youth empowerment in South Africa? And do you think the Hizmet movement is rightly placed to assist in this regard? Let's hear your point of view.
Thank you very much, Raj, and good evening to everybody. I think I'd like to make just three major points. The first is this, that we've just come out of the Youth Month, and we've got to celebrate the legacy of the students of the June 1976 uprisings. I mean, that was really a major point, because I think from that we can draw a number of lessons for young people today. Now, that started on the 16th of June 1976. The government of the day, the apartheid government, had introduced Afrikaans as a compulsory medium for instruction, which was not the language of students in African schools at the time. And then, and there was sharp inequalities in the education system. And that was a spontaneous uprising which turned violent. Hundreds of young people had lost their lives. And by the end of that year, thousands and thousands of students had abandoned schooling, and there was a total boycott of the Bantu education system.
Okay.
But that moment, those few months marked the turning point in the entire struggle against apartheid. Because what it did is it broke the fear that was there in communities, and it unleashed a whole new momentum for new organizations, particularly in communities, to emerge. Youth organizations, civic organizations, etc. Thousands of people, young students, left the country and gone into exile and joined organizations like the ANC and other liberation movements.
Okay.
So it transformed the character of the struggle. I think that's the first point, that young people, in their very nature, have tremendous energy and have got tremendous potential to bring about societal change. And
Correct.
we saw this really in the generation of 1976. With regards to the Hizmet movement specifically, I mean, they are operating their educational institutions for about 20 years in this country. I've attended several of their public functions. There's no doubt that since 1994, I mean, what the democratic government has done is that it has invested huge sums of money in educational development. In fact, 21% of our budget, national budget, since 1994 is spent on educational expenditure. And yet, I mean, we still find massive shortages of schools, infrastructure, facilities, educational development facilities, etc. So whilst the government has succeeded in opening access to education, we have virtually 100% universal educational admissions now in our school system. New schools have been built, but there are structural inequalities. Even though a new curriculum has been introduced, we still have, I think, significant weaknesses in terms of the quality of education. And what the Hizmet movement has done with the few institutions they've established in this country, a particular emphasis on maths and science development. Many of their schools are now high-performing schools when you look at the matric results. And I think there's been significant personal development of thousands of learners in terms of their leadership skills, the cultural interaction they've had, the student exchange programs they've had between South Africa and Turkey. I think these are all welcome developments. But the challenges for young people remain. And I think that's really just 2 or 3 points. This year, because of the COVID pandemic, there's been severe disruption of schooling, university learning and teaching, etc. The key question is, what do we do? The year is almost over. The academic year is almost over. Or this morning, for example, when I looked at the news, principals and teachers in the Western Cape were having a placard demonstration saying we can't continue teaching under conditions where the pandemic is really spreading quite fast. We are entering the peak period. Should we not be closing schools? In Indonesia, where I come, schools have opened a few weeks ago, only to be closed because either a teacher or a learner has been found positive in terms of the COVID pandemic. So this disruption And the year is likely to be wasted, the academic year. So we've got to find alternative means of transmitting, of teaching and learning. And I think that's the first challenge, particularly for public schools in our country. And I'm sure that the Hizmet schools are doing some fairly good work and some lessons for us. The second thing is this, that really, there's no doubt with this pandemic, life is going to change permanently. The very nature of work is going to change. And what are the new skills that are needed for us to begin to embrace the future of change? We're not going to go back to the old normal. There's no doubt about it. For the next 2-3 years, things are going to be seriously disrupted. And what are the new skills, and how can public schools and private sector educational institutions and the Hizmet schools, what skills can they bring to bear so that we can prepare our next generation for a changed world, a very different world from what we might have seen in 1976. And the big question is, and I'd like to hear the respondents, particularly the young people, what is the future vision and what skills are needed to prepare ourselves to accomplish that vision, and what impact can the Hizmet schools make in that process? Let me leave it there, Raj.
So, Dr. Vadi, so you certainly believe that the best practices of institutions like the Ismail movement have a pivotal role to play in transforming the education sector in South Africa so that the standard and quality of education becomes better.
Yeah, I think we spend a lot of energy and invested a lot of money in terms of the quantitative aspects of schooling. So building schools, putting out the infrastructure, all of those kinds of investing in the new curriculum, the textbook materials, the learning materials, etc. But sadly enough, in the last 25 years, we haven't seen an overhauling of the qualitative aspect, the quantitative aspects of learning. So we're still having, we've got high-performing schools, there's no doubt about it, both in the public sector and in private education. But the large numbers,
Correct.
even if you look at our matric results, the output is not there, the quality is not there. And I think what the Hizmet schools have shown us is that even under the current circumstances, we can get a higher level of education, a better quality of education. And I think there are really three things. One is absolute teacher commitment, so skills development of teachers and teacher commitment. Two is really serious parental involvement in supporting the learning institutions and the learning process.
Correct.
And the third thing really is individual commitment of learners themselves. Where you have a highly motivated learner, even under the most repressive conditions of apartheid, we had some of our best doctors emerging from the school system. So there were inequalities, broken schools, asbestos classrooms, broken windows. But where there's deep commitment on the part of a learner and a real, energy there, I think we're going to rise above those material circumstances and you'll begin to see greater quality in education.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head when you said the three main sectors of a school environment is very, very important. And it reminds me of the poikikos, or the three-legged pot analogy, where each of those legs represent one aspect of a school: the educator, the parent, and the learner. And if one of those legs break, that poikikos pot is going to go into the fire and it's going to burn the food. So we need to have all three legs up and steady, and we all need to work together. And I think you've hit it on the head. Right, so what is very, very important right now, we need to get responses, because the Ismail movement, through its school structures, the Star Colleges, to the New Horizon Educational Trust, etc., have done a remarkable piece of work. And I think both Professor Mkhize as well as Dr. Vadi have alluded to the fact that the movement have played a very, very pivotal role. Now, we want to see, if we look at statistics, we find that the results that came out of these schools were very paramount. And most of the learners that have come out of the annals of these Star Colleges, etc., are doing remarkably well throughout the world in various, whether it's the medical field, engineering, in any aspect of educational, commerce, etc., they're playing a very, very pivotal role. And today, we have 4 of those learners that came out of the schools of the Hizmet movement and are doing remarkably well throughout the world. And the first person that we have today is Dr. Kumaran Govender. Right now, very briefly, Dr. Kumaran Govender was one of the students of Star College Durban. He, during his period at Star College, and when he completed his matric, he achieved 12 distinctions and was placed amongst top learners in South Africa during his matric year. This is phenomenal. To get 6 or 7 distinctions is aim of everybody. But this youngster had 12 distinctions, and he is currently a Rhodes Scholar and a PhD candidate in infectious diseases and clinical genetics at the University of Oxford. He tutors medical students at Oxford, where he also serves in the capacity of assistant prefectus. He is part of the founding team and currently serves as chief medical officer of a pharmacogenetic company based in Cambridge, UK, that aims to provide personalized medicine in the world. His company was recently announced as part of the 7 most innovative genetic businesses in the world by Illumina Accelerator based in San Diego, California. Kumaran previously worked as a medical doctor at the Somerset Hospital situated at the waterfront Cape Town, and he holds associate post at Caprisa, who has been very, very in the foremost in this COVID-19 pandemic vaccine trials. He previously worked as a medical doctor, he also holds research associate posts in various other sectors, and he has a track record of publications in clinical medicine. He graduated from the University of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa with cum laude in medicine and was the first scholar to receive a simultaneous master's degree in health science on a special dual-track pilot degree program. A phenomenal achievement, obviously. At university, he received the Vice Chancellor's Award for being ranked among the top 5 students in a medical faculty and has won numerous awards, including the Golden Key Chapter Award, Peer Mentorship Award, to name a few. He also founded the South African Medical Students Association, the UKZN branch, during his undergraduate studies. Kumaran is playing a very, very vital role, and currently is is one of the trials. Is busy with the trials in Oxford for COVID-19 vaccine. Maybe you will tell us more about that. Kumaran, right? I've illustrated your achievements. You've come out of Star College with 12 distinctions. Tell us, what is the recipe of the success that the Hizmet movement contributed towards your development?
Hi, Dr. Raj. Thanks for having me here. Yeah, that was quite a lot. I didn't realize you'd read through the whole CV. But
no,
yeah,
it was deserving.
No, thanks a lot. I mean, there's still lots to do. Yeah, so it's great to be here, and especially being in touch with my old teachers, and Star College has played such a vital role in my life. It's quite when I tell my friends that I'm still in touch with my high school teachers, a lot of them are surprised, and I think because many schools this doesn't happen, and I think this really bears testament to the kind of strong relationships and the environment that was actually created at school. And just to describe to you what Star College was like for me, and for those of you who are listening, Star College is part of the Horizon Education. So Star College is part of the Horizon Education Trust, and we used to have a very intense academic program, but at the same time it was very social, and so we really bonded with our teachers, and this took forms in many ways. I mean, we used to play soccer with our teachers. We would leave the class 5 to 10 minutes early if we finished our work, so we could go out and play. We would have rides on Saturdays. We would have camps where we would work and study. And I think what was really different about Star College was the actual scholarly environment that was created. We wanted to be there, we wanted to learn because we enjoyed it. And I think, this is an example of a paradigm shift in teaching and really bringing innovative solutions to the table. And this is exactly what, Star College has done. And so I really see the Star schools in South Africa really being hubs in South Africa for uplifting education generally. And I think this is, definitely in line with the kind of UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this is particularly in line with Development Goal number 4, to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education, and also promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. And I know the minister spoke about bridging gaps in South Africa, and that's a big problem. I worked in rural areas as a doctor, and I completely understand the gaps that need to be filled. And this is in terms of resources, in terms of healthcare, in terms of education. But I think what Star College and the Star schools in general have focused on providing bursaries, and I think that's really important because it really bridges those gaps. And I myself was a recipient of one of those bursaries, and so I come from a family that's not very well off. My father started selling popcorn and mealies on the streets initially when he was growing up to actually buy electricity and so forth. And so it's been a long journey for my family, and to have me actually go to a school such as Star College and then go on to study medicine, I think was a real privilege for me. I think to add on to that, during my time at Star College and even while at university, Star College also provided many tuition centers in the country, and this was asked for by the department. But at the same time, they actually got the old scholars involved. So I used to go to the tuition centers to teach, to kind of give back and teach mathematics to scholars from any school in the area. And I think that really shows that the school is not only promoting its own learners, but also kind of influencing the whole education ecosystem in which it is placed. And so I think that's really important. And I guess the other point for me, which is about the kind of ethics and the values of the school. And it was really, an inclusive environment. There was diversity, tolerance, from the teachers, from the students, and it was really a great place to be at. And, I completely agree with the pokey pot analogy. It makes complete sense. And I think, you need all factors in that pot to make the best stew. And it just reminded me of an incident when I was in Star College. One of my mathematics teachers just had a baby, and he didn't cancel his classes with us. He stood in front of the class, one hand carrying his baby, and the other hand he had a marker, and he was teaching us maths. And I think that just really bears testament to kind of the dedication of the teachers at the school. So in some sense, I definitely think Star College is really a microcosm of what needs to be, employed around in South Africa, and really the model that needs to be used to transform education in South Africa. I know just to touch on Dr. Ismail Vadi's questions. I know he posed the question of what is the future vision and what skills are needed. And I think schools play a very, very important role in this, and really it's because schools need to prepare you for life and not just for a job. And I say this because the World Economic Forum estimates that at least 65% of children entering school will find themselves in occupations that don't even exist tomorrow. And so it's really a challenge to actually prepare students for new jobs that we don't even know about and equip them with the skills to actually gain experience. For instance, there is talk about the fourth industrial revolution, and that will kind of change the whole landscape of future jobs. With the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics, the whole nature of jobs changes. And of course, coronavirus is accelerating this whole process. And I think it's really important for schools, such as Star College, to really focus on the mathematics, on the sciences, on literature. And I think it's really important to kind of create whole human beings, from the students. So yeah, I mean, as the minister said, the youth make up a large proportion of South Africa. So they make up almost 40% of the South African population, and this was in 2010. But definitely, the youth are 100% of the future, and I think the Hizmet organization has definitely been focusing on this. So yeah, I just want to end up on a quote by Nelson Mandela that said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." And I salute, the Horizon Trust for producing many and many students that aim to do just this. For sure, myself, I would have not had the privilege of being accepted into med school in South Africa if it were not for all my high school teachers. And yet alone, studying in Oxford on the Rhodes Scholarship was a totally different dream.
Thank you so much, Kumaran. Now, I would like to ask you one last thing before I thank you. You are very, very involved with the COVID-19 trials at the moment, right? I'm sure many listeners out there and viewers that are being victims or their family members that are victims of COVID-19, right? What hope can you give us in terms of the vaccine that is researched?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So there's actually there's a really good article today that I must recommend that came out in The Economist describing the progress of the vaccines in the world. And the main contenders are essentially China, America, and the UK, and now India that's actually producing vaccines. And I think there's lots of hope. So I've written an article that you can possibly find in the Sunday Times as well about a month ago on vaccines. And I don't want to promise false hope because there's a problem of logistics, how to get vaccines to the people that actually need it. But I think there is some positive results, particularly in the Oxford trials that are running right now. And hopefully, we would have some results in the next few months. But I definitely think that the first problem is actually first finding a vaccine that works. And an even larger problem, is distributing it to 7 billion people. That's a huge endeavor. But I definitely think there's some hope. So we should be glad about that.
Okay, coming from a former Star College graduate, and I'm convinced that there will be hope. Thank you so much, Kumaran, for a very, very inspiring address. You've clearly been a real beneficiary of the Hizmet movement with the values that they promote. Thank you so much. Right, now we will have a very short video. In between our speakers, we have short video messages from youth, not necessarily Star College graduates or students, but basically beneficiaries of one aspect or the other from the Hizmet movement. We have one short message.
My name is Chikoli Kamtandole. In 2001, I received a scholarship to obtain at Horizon High School, and I did my high schooling from 2002 until 2006. At my school, we learned a lot of things, especially my teachers who were dedicated to empowering us, making sure that we get the best education. After I finished high school, I went then on try to impart that knowledge that I with my other. My name is Chikoli Kamtandole. In 2001, I received a scholarship to obtain at Horizon High School, and I did my high schooling from 2002 until 2006. At my school, we learned a lot of things, especially my teachers who were dedicated to empowering us, making sure that we get the best education. After I finished high school, I went then on try to impart that knowledge that I learned at Horizon High School with my other colleagues who are coming, the students that are coming to Horizon High School. Currently, I'm working on a project that enhances the mathematical level of learners in primary school, where I teach free of charge in partnership with the Teko Samuel Institute and the Horizon Education Trust. The Teko Samuel Institute motto is to serve others instead of our own. Thus, I try to serve others before I serve myself. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Amy, and I'm from Star College Cape Town, and I'm a part of the Junior City Council. The teachers at Star College Cape Town are very supportive, and they help us with anything we may struggle with, and they're always there for us no matter what. Once a week, we have a value period where we are taught values that help us strive to be better people. For example, we sometimes have guests who come to talk to us about time management, respect, and things like that. We have a Big Sister, Little Sister program where the grade 10s and 11s act as guides for the grade 8s and 9s and help them through their journey in high school. Along with all these and much more, we also have an anti-bullying pledge that we say every morning in assembly. Star College really does help us achieve our goals and support our community.
Hi, my name is Hizmet and I'm a learner at Star College. And I truly believe that most of the learners at Star College are privileged. The reason I say this is, every day, whether I'm late or early to school, I come into the community at Star College and I see a huge problem. Many learners loitering around spice shops, smoking, talking, drinking, possibly having fun when they should be at school, in school learning. But as I enter the doors of Star College, I'm constantly reminded that I am to be the difference in their lives. Star College has initiated a system known as Star Kids, where they help disadvantaged organizations and schools in the upbringing of children and the community at large. I'm truly grateful for Star College introducing me to this so that I know as a person that I need to make a difference in their lives, not just at the age that I am now, but when I get independent so that I can take this organization to another level. I'd like to thank Star College for changing my mindset, not just of me, but of all the learners at the school. Thank you.
Hi all, my name is Ntokozo Msobe, President of the Time to Care Youth Club from Horizon International High School. Well, the Time to Care Youth Club is an initiative that helps us as young active citizens who are concerned about their communities and youth problems to reach our goals, which is to see a better South Africa for all. The Time to Care Youth Club does this in such a way that we reach out to the less fortunate and we help in whatever way in which we can. The Care Youth Club is an initiative that drives to see a better South Africa, which is a common have with us to see a better South Africa for all. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rabia Jehan. I am in grade 5A in Nizamia School in Mayfair. My goal for the future is to study at the best university in South Africa, so I can be a successful person as well as a responsible person and caring person for my community. To reach my goals, my school is giving me good opportunities such as Time to Care Youth Club activities to help others and to be aware of our community's problems. In addition to this, I can join arts and sports club and extra classes to improve myself academically.
Right, I think that was brilliant, right? People are acknowledging their role of Star College in making their lives a better for South Africa and for the world out there. Right, our next youth response, is from a person known as Nicholas Pixa, currently a life coach and professional mentor, life science and allo educator, a regional director at ESCOM Expo Science Fair, and recently replaced the popular proverb as the MC of the International Science Fair, which is the biggest science fair in Africa and a top 10 in the world. He is also a trustee of the Turquoise Harmony Institute. Over to you, Pixa.
Thank you so much for that very, very brief welcoming, Dr. Ka. And just like to acknowledge some of the prominent people that I have on my disposal, Professor Hlengiwe Buhle and Mkhize, and of course Dr. Vadi, Ismail Vadi, and the fellow Star College graduates, Dr. Mane,
We do not live
and of
in one
course Dr. Kumaran and Jill Romero Patel. Yes, it is quite a very touching topic, as I am, if I can just proclaim that I am in the grassroots level of working under the Hizmet movement. And just to understand, or maybe for your viewers and for some of the prominent speakers that I have on my disposal, the word Hizmet, it comes from the Turkish language, and it means to serve. So Hizmet means to serve, or it can be used in a noun means service. So it is a very, very strong concept that is used by people who are giving off their, whatever talents that they have in their disposal, whether it's skills or anything that they have, in no point of receiving. So I think that is one thing that really, really drew me into, choosing a career in teaching and choosing a career in speaking, and most importantly, choosing a career in, mentoring young children for the purpose of course, giving back to my community. Just a brief background. I was actually one of the first students in Horizon International High School, which is the Star Johannesburg, if you can call it that. Being recruited from the dusty streets of Soweto, if I can proclaim, and getting to have that 100% bursary to study in a school that was very, very, have solidarity and so much social cohesion, and it was a moment of, especially for my family, of it's either you're gonna make it or you're not gonna make it. Because I come from a family of 9 where our father just decided to leave us after I was born, and I'm the last one of the family. And my mother, when I had this opportunity, out of 300 students who wrote that registration examination, I was one of the first lucky ones to get the acceptance of going and studying at Star College at Johannesburg. And my mother said to me, it's either you're going to make it or you're not going to make it here. So this is up to you. I don't have anything to give you. This is my own will to you. So I took those words and, studying from the first grade up until matric, there was just only one thing, the attraction of my teachers. Because my teachers gave so much of their time, as Dr. Kumaran said to the speakers and to the audience. Teachers, taking the time off and giving the time off to, the students, visiting us in our home. I think the first time I was very, very shocked when my teacher said to me, Nick, we want to visit your house. Like, well, I live in a shed. Where are you going to visit? They said, no, we want to visit your house and just to talk to you and to talk to your mom, to talk to anyone that is around you. So it was a very warm, gesture for me, because it was very shocking when my teacher had to come and see where I lived in my community. And I think from that onward, I just decided to take school very seriously. I decided to take life very seriously and started to, solve our social problems at a very, very young age. And, the issue of transformation, this is one of the topics that is being, especially myself in the education fraternity. Transformation, we can see it as a very, very important tool, especially when we speak about the STEM education, the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and innovation. And if we can incorporate this very, very great vision of putting STEM and putting our social cohesion, and most importantly also the solidarity, and embedded with the Hizmet values, with the Hizmet universal values, and most importantly to the people who are giving up their time, their talents, their skills for the betterment of the South African youth. And I think with all of those great attributes, all of the quality that they have at their disposal, whether it's through the Turkish Harmony Institute, whether it's through the Time to Care Institute, or maybe the Horizon Educational Trust. And as you said, we have some 5 schools, and I'm one of the teachers at one school in Pretoria. And I see a lot of youth, a lot of parents coming through at the school and changing their lives. I've worked in Horizon International High School, and the students now we're forced to have doctors like Dr. Kumaran, like doctors like one of my partners here, Dr. Demande, and we have so many great people that are leaders now as we speak. And imagine all of this vision with the umbrella, with the potential, with the Hizmet movement as part of our guidance. And I think we have a greater chance in becoming one of the great nations, especially when it comes to social transformation, and most importantly when it comes to solidarity and through the social cohesion.
Thank you so much, Nicholas. I'd like to apologize to the viewers for the sound quality. Maybe it was some latency issues. And I also like to apologize for the previous video. The synchronization video was not correct. So, but we heard the messages loud and clear. We will now have a next set of messages from a few more video messages from some beneficiaries.
We do not live in one homogeneous world. We each come from different backgrounds, belonging to different cultural and religious groups, speaking different languages, with different skills and likes and preferences and goals. Everything else about us may be different, but the goals that we're working towards are the same. I find that when this happens, an unspoken agreement is formed, in which we agree to ignore all our differences in favor of working together towards these goals. I find that Turquoise Harmony does not do that. Instead, it builds on the values that I've learned through USPP, of not ignoring our differences and ignoring any issues that come up, but working constructively through them, through listening and talking. This emphasis on dialogue allows for a different perspective to be given on our differences. Instead of ignoring them, we celebrate them. We look at how different people can contribute in different ways towards reaching the same goals. In listening and in understanding, we also start to identify the common threads that bind us all together. When we do this, we can view individuals completely for who they are and what they can contribute. I find that Turquoise Harmony does this beautifully, with all its different events. For the Women's Day event, for example, or the Youth Day event centered around refugee rights, so many people were brought together with different skills and different talents.
Day. My name is Stefan Vilankulos. I graduated from the Nizami Combined School in Midrand in the year 2018. I was one of the people who were blessed with the opportunity to receive a bursary and study at the school, and that opportunity has definitely changed the direction of my life, because looking back 7 years, I don't think I would be where I currently am if it wasn't for that opportunity. I am now a second-year university student at the University of Pretoria doing a bachelor's in education, and that's something I never thought that I would be doing, but is a result of the inspiration that I drew from the school, the teachers, the love they showed us. Their job title says that they are our teachers, but in the process, they became our elder brothers, mentors. They did things for us that you would never think that a person would do without having to gain anything from it. And that inspired me to become a better person. So I also decided to go into education so that I can do for others in the future what the teachers did for me during my high school years.
Being a part of a struggling community is one of the most difficult things to go through in life. Time to Care has provided me with the opportunity to reach my goals with regards to the maths classes and skill development that they provide once a month. As a young woman, I feel like the less fortunate should be provided for, and that's what they do when they conduct a women's workshop. They provide second-hand clothing for the less fortunate, which I feel we have a lot in the community, so it helps.
Hello, I'm Lucretia Ramadou. I matriculated from Star College in 2016. In my 5 years at Star College, I always felt motivated by my teachers to give 100% in everything that I do and strive to be a strong, educated young woman. We were always encouraged to learn and experience new cultures and new things. Star College has instilled values of kindness and empathy in me, as we always took part in fundraising programs and tried to help the less fortunate community in any way we can. We visited children's homes and made stationery boxes for underprivileged children every year, among other things. Our teachers always motivated us to be aware of problems in our society and always encouraged us to pursue our dreams and our goals, and were by our side every step of the way. The teachers were a huge source of support and encouragement throughout our schooling career.
We do not live in one homogeneous world.
Thank you for those beautiful messages, very inspirational, clearly evidence that there are benefiting from the Hizmet movement. Right. Our next youth response is from Umaira Patel, who is a 16-year-old grade 11 learner at one of the New Horizon Trust institutions. She is a Channel Islam International Youth Ambassador and part of the Gibbs Leadership Program. Also a part of the Time to Care organization, which we heard about earlier on. She's a very, very enthusiastic young girl, and she's all geared towards helping the community in different programs. Let's hear from Umaira.
Okay, so what is Time to Care? Time to Care's trust vision is to inspire a culture of unconditional care for one another by giving to those less fortunate, so we may help one another and provide short-term relief assistance to communities and people affected by poverty. We encourage the idea of charitable giving for the upliftment of humanity, and we work with relevant stakeholders to combat the effect of poverty in our communities. Our mission at Time to Care is to provide a humanitarian aid relief to the most deserving people and communities in South Africa and the SADC region. We provide for the supplies and caring needs for orphan children and educational and scholarship needs for deserving learners and students. We also care for the sick, elderly with needs and necessities. Our mission is aiding communities through development irrespective of race, religion, and social background. Time to Care also has key partners both internationally and locally, namely Time to Help, which is based in the United Kingdom, Compassion Relief Foundation, INC, based in the United States of America. In South Africa, we have partnered with the Department of Health and Social Development together with the Charlotte Makeke Foundation and more. So where we are located in the 5 biggest cities of South Africa, namely Durban, Cape Town, and our head office is in Johannesburg, and as well as Port Elizabeth. We have partnered in association with other Southern Hemisphere countries, including Mozambique, Malawi, Lesotho, Angola, Botswana, Zambia, Madagascar, Swaziland, Zimbabwe, and Namibia. So the activities of our youth club, we run many activities throughout the year, and we currently running a skill development course. It's based in 3 different areas. It's Davidson, Tembisa, and Westbury. The skill development classes consist of cooking, arts and crafts, sewing, and knitting. These activities are instilled to encourage females to be independent so that they can earn their own income. There's also various drives that takes place within schools, which are undertaken by the Time to Care Youth Club members. So some of our activities are the toothbrush, toothpaste, and soap campaign, where many learners would get together, collect, and we distribute to orphanages. The food drive, which consists of non-perishable foods. Clothing and toy drive is us collecting second-hand clothing and toys and distributing it to old age homes and even other orphanages. So with all these items we collect from these various drives, we distribute it at different places and to those most in need. Time to Care has empowered me to become, it has a humbling experience. It has taught me to be more appreciative and grateful for my blessings, to appreciate our parents and grandparents by taking care of them to the best of our ability, to be kind to everyone irrespective of race, gender, or religion, because we don't know what the next person is going through. It has taught me to appreciate the little things in our day-to-day lives. It has taught me to know my rights, even though I may not be able to vote as yet, but all youth hold international and national rights. I should also learn and consider local issues, because learning about local issues, it helps me in creating solutions that will have an impact on me. It has taught me that a butter bread is something that holds great significance. Something that we might find boring actually holds a lot in someone else's life. Time to Care also encourages the youth in different ways. So, as being part of Time to Care, we have learned we are a part of a community and we've got the power to educate and influence those around us. It has helped me and many other youth members to expand our knowledge by bringing together and exchanging ideas and becoming an active member of society. Also, to be an inspiration, to believe in yourself and to follow your passion, because a passionate youth can and will change the world. And I believe I'm a leader of today, not tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Umaira. Basically, what Umaira has given us is food for thought. Society is going through a moral degradation. And with whatever she has said, it's clearly if all students and all young people are using the ability and recipe of Time to Care, then society would be such a better place, right? There would be a moral regeneration of society, and humanity will be so much more better for what it's worth. So thank you so much, Umaira. Right. Our last youth response is also a very, very colorful CV that I got in front of me, but I'm not going to read through all because it will take us the entire night, but he has done remarkably well. Originally from Manguzi, Dr. Duduzo Sepisisle Dimande comes from a small rural town in the northeastern part of KwaZulu-Natal. Right? Since his childhood years, he was always dreaming of becoming a doctor. He loves working with people and enjoys serving the community. Right? He joined a youth club at a very young age called the Soul Buddies Youth Group, similar to Time to Care. Right? And this provided him with a very, very good opportunity of doing community projects to spread awareness that the youth are experiencing. He spent a lot of his primary school days with the Soul Buddies. After a personal family incident that took place where one of his family members got ill and he had to go to a local hospital, the Mangusi District Hospital, he then realized that his mission was to become a doctor. And from that moment onwards, he started working very, very hard and focused on his mathematics and science subjects so that he can achieve his dreams. After going to various schools, Sluwe Primary School, Sunnydale Secondary School, and so on, he was given an opportunity to be interviewed to become a beneficiary of the Star College High School bursary program. And he was very successful. And then he passed his interview and was accepted to join the school in 2006, and he began his studies from grade 9 onwards. Star College, according to him, contributed tremendously to the man that he is today. And I'm sure he's going to tell us more about it. But with his guidance of his teachers at Star College, he matriculated with 7 distinctions and went on to pursue a degree in medicine at the University of Witwatersrand in Johannesburg. This is also where he met his intelligent, beautiful wife. And he completed his degree in record time in 2015 and went on to become an intern medical doctor in Ampangeni for 2 years. He then completed his community service at the Bethesda District Hospital near Mkhize, right? And then that is what he did in terms of rural development. He is currently working in his hometown of Manguzi at the Manguzi District Hospital, the same hospital that planted the seeds for him to become a doctor. He is incredibly grateful to God who gave him this opportunity to serve his community. His interest is to his specialty of orthopedic surgery, which I am convinced with the determination and the dream that he has, his dream of becoming an orthopedic surgeon will soon materialize. Over to you, Dr. Ndimande.
Good evening to the panel, to my colleagues and everyone who's listening. Thank you for the warm introduction. I cannot speak about Star College without speaking about my late friend, Dr. Dumelo Seliena, who sadly passed away in his final year of medicine. He's the one who actually introduced me to the Star College schools, and I was further invited to do an interview, which I successfully passed and got admitted to Star College. So I believe that Star College schools and Horizon Trust, just like many civil societies, have a very important role in collaborating with the government to ensure that a lot of the goals that we set out as a country are met and to hold them accountable. So I'll echo the same sentiments that my colleagues or former learners, Dr. Kumren and Mr. Baker said. Star College was extremely supportive. Coming from a rural environment, rural schools, my confidence was not so good when it came to subjects like mathematics and science. But the dedication and the desire the teachers had to actually see us succeed was so incredible. And they made us believe that through hard work, it's possible to achieve many great things that we thought were impossible. And yes, that's the same sentiment for me. I'm now a medical doctor, as you'd have noted from what Dr. Govender had just mentioned, Mr. Raj Govender, that my passion to help people started a long time ago from my childhood years. Even Star College, I found similar traits in the teachers to just help us. It was so selfless, and it felt so in alignment with my goals to become a doctor. And that's why I'm still here in Manguzi Hospital in a rural community. It's underprivileged, but I'm so glad and very happy. It just gives me great pleasure to wake up every morning to come and help all these very disadvantaged communities that we see, especially in these times of COVID. It's so fulfilling to actually go out there in the communities. People are so afraid to come to hospitals. You'd be surprised, they're terrified. So we are going out into their homes. Sometimes they hide, but because we are from the community, they feel so comfortable. So sometimes they do come out. I'm able to communicate in the same language. I know some of them even personally. So without Star College, none of this would have been possible. So I'm immensely grateful to the Star College schools, and I would like to challenge Star College schools to actually even come further. I know most of the schools are in the cities, but I'd like to challenge them to actually dig deeper and come to rural areas. They'll find a lot of talent, a lot of people like myself that they have developed, that they can be proud to have developed. I'll be very brief. My signal is also poor because of where I am. But yes, I'd like to encourage you guys to keep doing the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ndimande. Being associated with a medical institution, the vice chairperson of the Nkosi Albert Lutuli Hospital, I am very much aware of the wonderful work that you guys are doing as frontline workers. To ensure the safety for the people that you care for. So thank you so much, Dr. Ndimande. Right, before we go into question and answer session, I would like to read a comment from one of the viewers right now, Vaneshri Pillai, who is at the University of Witwatersrand. She says, wow, kudos to the alumni of Star College, keeping the flame of education burning bright. Education has to be approached from a holistic perspective. Textbook theory as well as real-time life scenarios to equip the future generation for life, not only as educated individuals, but as educated, well-rounded individuals with innovative, proactive, critical thinking, action, and behavior. And she says that this is exactly what it is. Motivation starts in the home with loving parents. It grows into the school environment like Star College through caring teachers. Thank you so much for that very, very nice sentiments, Vaneshri Pillai. Right, to all our viewers right now, we have a question and answer session. Right, panelists, I hope you're listening because some of these questions may be directed to you, or if anyone would like to answer, you're welcome to. The first question that I have here is, what can civil society do to help promote the amazing work of the Hizmet movement? Right, can we ask maybe the minister, deputy minister, to answer the question? What can civil society do to promote the work of the Hizmet movement? Professor Hlengiwe.
Thank you very much. You know, after listening to these powerful testimonies, I think already that's the engagement we are having partly is promoting a certain kind of education which produces people with a mission and a vision. And these dialogues, for me, they touch on something very, very important, that when we aspire to get education, it's not only about a piece of paper, but this desire to serve at a deeper level. So we have to share experiences and also continue to, when talking to young people, profile those whom are not only about having acquired high degrees, but also who are committed to serving at a local level, but also who bring solid values to the whatever profession that they've been attracted to, and a spirit of ubuntu. So basically, I thought my initial reaction is really to say we have to communicate, profile critical values that will make us better educated people in society.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Professor. Dr. Ismail Vadi, would you like to add anything to that? What can civil society do to assist the Hizmet movement?
I think, we've heard some wonderful testimonies of people, how the schooling system, particularly the Hizmet schools, adapt to develop individual personalities. You can't have social development without personal development. So a prerequisite for social development is individual and personal development. And I think what we've seen here are just some examples of people who've done they've come from very different backgrounds, but they're making a profound contribution to society at large. And that the key is education. So I think civil society organizations should be supporting both public and private education systems, because that's the key to the future for our country, particularly for young people. Today, it's no longer, a matric certificate is not good enough, I can tell you that. You can't do anything with a matric certificate. You need to look at at least advancing your learning experiences so that you can become more competent, more able to adjust to a rapidly changing society, a global society. So education is the key, and civil society organizations providing educational services, I think, are playing quite an important role for the development of individuals in our society.
We have a question here from Maiwa Gali, who says, while the CAPS curriculum makes reference to skills, but these are silent in the educational and learning processes in the majority of our schools. what we are doing in our schools, we highlight and emphasize the learning skills of learners. Despite the curriculum design, including skills, the schools continue to teach the same way and process the same things as before 1994. Is this something that we could address, Professor? Do you think that there needs to be a radical change in curriculum design to cater for a more transformed South African society?
Yeah, well, education is dynamic. It's important for upcoming educators to look at where we're going, where we are, and teach differently and promote things like creative thinking. Remember, traditionally in the past, people were really not properly developed. They would be encouraged to memorize. They'll be very little about personal development, and teachers will be less committed. But in the era where we're in now, and also taking into consideration these powerful testimonies about the environment, the milieu, educational milieu, it is clear that we all have to bring something to the table, more than concepts, but our own values. There have been testimonies about inspiration coming from the dedicated teachers, giving their best, sacrificing everything, which to me, it shows that also tends to inspire young people. So we have to transform our educational system. But, it starts with me, whether as a parent or an educator or as a learner. The kind of commitments we have to bring to the table are much higher than in a traditional paper-driven educational system where you aspire to get whatever and move on without piece of paper, and sometimes walk away from the community completely, and also not focus much on your own values, the image you portray to the community at large. So I definitely believe in a transformed environment in its totality.
Can I just add to that?
We have a... Hello? Yes, Kumaran, you'd like to say something?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree, with the question that the educational curriculum needs to be changed. And obviously, it's something very, very difficult to do because you need input from all stakeholders, from teachers, parents, learners. I think it's really difficult to do that. But at the same time, I think, looking at the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's more important now to actually look at the actual content we're thinking and perhaps, add different perspectives in our education besides, a kind of West focus centric. I mean, yes, I enjoyed learning about Shakespeare, but should I not learn about some isiZulu, poems as well, or Afrikaans poems? And I think that's also quite important as well.
I think during this lockdown period where students or learners are at home with the parents have really had a wake-up call, because some schools were giving parents an opportunity to supervise learners' work and so on, and they were having great difficulties because previously children were placed in schools and left to the care of educators, and the parents felt it was their duty as parents to do something else. But right now, during COVID-19, they realized they have a much greater role as a parent, not only as with parenting skills, but also to ensure that they take much more interest in the education of the children. And I think that partnership between the parents, educators, and the learners is pivotal in ensuring standards that need to be changed. I have one comment here from Suraya Naika. She said the Hizmet movement is making a meaningful difference, changing lives and nation building. Gratitude to all involved. That clearly was demonstrated by the students that we heard here today. Then we have another comment from Jan de Kroof. Some people unfortunately fell away from formal teaching. In Bethlehem, we have a program of skilled training which gives them another chance in society. Thanks for your initiative, sharing initiatives concerning youth. That's kudos to, once again, to the Hizmet movement. Right. And then we have a comment from Selvam Padyachi, a very inspiring presentation by the alumni of Star College. A very unique education indeed, an educare system for life and service. Those are very, very positive comments that came from some of our viewers. Right. Now, as we come towards the end of this very, very meaningful engagement, I would like to ask some closing remarks from our two panelists. Firstly, Dr. Ismail Vadi, in closing, can you sum up and give us your closing remarks?
Raj, I think Muawiyah has raised an important point. We've got a new curriculum. It's based on outcomes, education outcomes, but we're still finding large numbers of teachers using the old rote learning rote learning procedures in the classroom. Now, change is not going to come if we don't find change amongst our educators and our teaching, because they are really the trigger. They have to give the inspiration. It's extremely disappointing because I've got grandchildren at home and I'm sitting and trying to see what they're doing. I get reports of what other schools are doing, not just private schools, but other public schools, the creative ways in which they are reaching out to learners, getting on with the work for this year under very difficult conditions, etc. But if I look at some of the schools in and around Asia, etc., the reports that we're getting, that creativity is not there, the passion is not there, the innovation is not there. And I think, when you said that it's a three-way partnership, it's parents, it's the government, and it's the school management, but at the end of the day, it's the teacher. And I think it's a bit disappointing that we're not really seeing large numbers of our teachers coming to revitalize our education system and to really bring about educational transformation.
I have another comment here before I hear from Dr. Mkhize, Professor Mkhize. I have a comment from Kartigesan Mutusemi from Benoni in Gauteng. He says, Dr. Raj, I think we need to balance the responsibilities of the parent and that of the teacher. Remember, school should be an extension of the home in terms of respect and commitment. Great stuff. Thank you, Kati, for that lovely comment. Then we have Bob Dulraj from Vision Active. He says it's a very insightful and relevant topic and compliments all the participants. And then Vaneshri Pillai, once again, lovely comment. Education has to be approached not from a one-size-fits-all. There needs to be an underlying understanding that each child has different strengths. Some may be STEM-orientated, whilst others, find different aspects towards their life. So thank you, Vaneshri, for that particular comment. And now let's listen to the Honorable Prof. Mkhize, the Deputy Minister in the Office of the Presidency, for your closing comments.
Well, for me, my take home after this is that we should acknowledge that our education system is characterized by different pressure points. There are young people who come from families where they get good support from parents in terms of encouraging them to study and assisting them materially. But also there are some of the young people who really come from extremely deprived environment. But what we have learned from the testimonies of all young people is that a school environment can make up for even deficits that are in a family setting or a community at large. If you have dedicated teachers who go beyond a call of duty, but also young people with a mission and a determination, and young people who aspire to contribute in community development. I mean, I was really touched when I heard from a young person from Mangosi, which is a very extremely poor area. But just because he went to the hospital once, he made up his mind and was determined to make a difference. And he continued to do that. So it's a dynamic process we're in. But if we continue to cement important values of respect for each other's cultures, promoting unity, and of course expressing solidarity where there are challenges, and developing people, helping them to have an internal locus of control and a desire to play a role at a community level, I think we will succeed. We will begin to be this generation which is making a difference.
Thank you so much, Professor, the Honorable Professor H. Mkhize, from the Office of the Presidency, a Deputy Minister. We'd like to thank you for your comments. And, in closing, right, remember this particular discussion is based on how the Hizmet movement is empowering the youth. The youth movement is a process where young people are encouraged to take charge of their lives. And that is what the Hizmet movement believes in, giving opportunities for young people to take charge of their lives. They do this by addressing the situation, and then they take action in order to improve the access to resources. In this regard, the Hizmet institutions in South Africa aim to improve the quality of life for the South African youth through capacity building by providing education and youth empowerment programs. The testimonies of all the young people that we heard today that were beneficiaries of the Hizmet movement are clear that they have really benefited from this program. The crucial importance, dear listeners and viewers, of promoting equality and empowering youth in general has been continuously stressed by the United Nations as well as NGOs all over the world. Despite significant progress over the past few years, these goals in multiple fields worldwide, access to basic rights for the youth and empowering them to be part of decision-making remains entrenched in terms of leadership, the organizations in South Africa, the Turquoise Harmony Institute, Time to Care, and the Horizon Educational Trust for coordinating this particular panel discussion. And we would like to, on behalf of all the parents and the learners in South Africa, thank you most sincerely for creating opportunities for the youth to become better leaders in South Africa and the global arena. At this juncture, as I would like to thank the Turquoise Harmony Institute, our panelists, our youth response leaders, and all the viewers and listeners that have tuned in today to this online discussion. I would like to thank you most sincerely. We'd like to wish you well during this very, very dark period in human history, as our whole lives have come to a standstill during COVID-19. But with leadership that has been developed by the Hizmet movement, I am convinced that we will survive this pandemic. You and your family. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Minister, thank you very much for your contribution and for your participation. We are
thank you.
Sincerely honored. I hope the message will go out, and many people will try to contribute to youth and their empowerment.
Thank you very much to you all. Really, really eye-opener.
Thank you very much.